rain?
It's the same here. Just rain every day.
How is the weather in your place? Is it like mainly rainy, or you have most
Yeah,
clear days?
right now it's yeah, it's rainy season right now. So we have, this morning we had extreme rain. We had strong rain for about 3-4 hours, and we had flooding.
Yeah, same here. I think the Philippines a few years ago, beautiful country, and the weather and the scenery is very close to Colombia.
Yeah, it is. Well, I know that most of you in Bogota are very high altitude, but we're more or less like Cartagena.
Yeah.
We're the same latitude as Cartagena, and we have the same weather as Cartagena.
What
But
about the scene?
usually we're islas pequeñas, so we're small islands, many small islands. So we're very close to the sea.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And for doing astrophotography, that's like bad for you, I guess, or not
Yeah.
really.
Yo vivo cerca un gran ciudad, so the light pollution is very bad, very bad.
Cebu is a main city, or do you live close to? Which one is the main city over there?
Well, it's the second largest city in the Philippines. The largest city is Manila.
Manila, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, but Cebu is the second largest city. It's not as big as Manila, but we have a population of 1 million. So it's still quite a large city.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, I am Marta. I'm just wondering, how do you know how much about Colombia? Sorry, perhaps I am new in the association, so I'm not have this long history as Diana and the other one. But I just was wondering, like, you say the names of the cities quite well, and when you're talking, I'm like, well, it seems that you had either had been here long, or you had been in touch with the people here, or how do you
Yeah, I've been
know
to
that?
Colombia. In fact, the picture behind me, I took in Cartagena. So
Oh, right.
I think 2 years ago, right, Manuel? So Manuel brought me to Cartagena. But currently, I'm puedo hablar un poco español. I'm slowly learning Spanish.
Good. Great.
It's easy for me because no, muchas palabras de nuestro idioma tiene palabras de español.
Are similar to Spanish.
So yeah, a lot of our local language use Spanish words. So, but one thing that drives me crazy is the verbs of Spanish is it drives me
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Conjugate
And
verbs in Spanish
the
is quite
conjugation is
complicated.
you have about 20 different conjugations for one verb. It's
Yep.
yeah, it's crazy. But poco a poco aprender poco a poco.
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah. And we used to be a colony of Spain. In fact, right now we celebrate the 500th anniversary of the arrival of the Spaniards in Cebu. Ferdinand Magellan came to Cebu 500 years ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he also died here. He got killed here.
Something that we couldn't do, you know?
Yeah, but I think we are the only former Spanish colony that no habla Espanol. The Spanish treated us differently. In fact, the Spanish actually encourage our local language.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Spaniards, we would have lost our local language. In the Philippines, we have about more than 40 different languages, totally different.
I imagine.
Yes. See. So, how do you want me to give the talk? Will it be beginner or medium or advanced?
Let me ask. ¿Qué nivel quieren de la charla? ¿Avanzado, medio o principiante? Acá una encuesta rápida entre los socios que están conectados.
Avanzado.
¿Avanzado? Pues vamos con avanzado de una vez, ¿cierto?
Avanzado.
No sé.
Avanzado?
Yeah.
So, I will try to speak a little Spanish. So,
Your Spanish with us,
hopefully-
but okay.
okay. Yeah, it's easier to understand Latin Spanish than from the Castilian Spanish, which really drives me crazy. They talk too fast.
I haven't seen Christian connected yet, Christopher.
I think no, I told him 7:30, so you know, we still have a little time.
Okay,
Might be preparing or
I sent him a text message, but he hasn't replied. Anyways, I don't know what Diana considers to be done.
From Cartagena, from Peru?
Yes.
He texted us on WhatsApp. Hold on. Well, if we could start, or we have to, or we're waiting for someone else?
No, Diana, yeah, you decide what to do, Diana. Just go ahead, whatever you think is needs to be done. Just go ahead.
yeah, I'm ready.
If Christopher is ready, let me call Christian to see if he's gonna get online. Hold on.
Okay, I need to do something.
Manuel.
Hola, Cristian.
Hola, Christopher. How are you?
Muy bien.
¿Cómo están?
Muy bien,
Muy
Cristian.
bien, muy bien. Yeah, great to see you, Christian.
Mucho tiempo sin verlos. Les cuento que me conecté rápido porque tengo que ir para buceo con algo de la Fundación Malpelo, pero como están grabando todo, voy a ver el video luego. Bueno.
Vale, Cristian, muchas gracias. So Christian said that he has to go for a scuba diving session with some foundation. So I don't know, if we could start, it'll be great.
Okay. Let me prepare some data because okay.
Okay. I'll be joining you together, guys. I just had a call from the ministry. I'll be back.
Okay. So, buenos dias. Let's start. Let's see what I have to do here. Slideshow from the beginning. Zoom. Share screen. Okay. If you have si tienen preguntas, pueden anyway, if you have any questions, you can just go ahead and ask anytime. We're going to talk about basically the secrets of getting the best planetary image. Imaging planets is not just it's not just one thing. It's about many things. You have to prepare many things. Wait a sec. So we're going to talk about a few things. First of all, you have to choose the right equipment. Next, we're going to basically talk about the imaging workflow. I think the first is the preparation. We need to prepare before you actually image. And the second is the image capture. Then we're going to go through image processing, the post-processing, and archiving, basically saving the data for future. Well, choosing the equipment, it's important that the telescope is el telescopio es muy importante. Si tienes un telescopio más grande, la resolución es más mejor. So yeah, the bigger the telescope, the bigger the aperture, it'll be better if you use a bigger telescope. What is the best telescope to use? I would recommend te recomiendo Schmidt-Cassegrain because porque es más pequeño por el apertura. So it's small. It's not a big telescope for the aperture. It's a compact design, and you don't need because one thing about when you're imaging planets, you have to have a solid mount. It's easier to mount big Schmidt-Cassegrain than, let's say, you have a Newtonian or a refractor. And of course, also most Schmidt-Cassegrain. I don't know what the price is in Colombia, but for its aperture, the price is más barato. So it's a lot cheaper than other telescope types. In this case, I have 3 different aperture because I have 3 different Schmidt-Cassegrains. I have a 8-inch or 20 centimetros, 28 centimetros, or this is 11 inches, or 14-inch, or 36 centimetros. So for the camera, there are 2 types of camera available. The first is the color, and the other one is the monochrome. The advantage of the color camera is, first of all, it's más barato. It's cheaper to operate. No tiene filter wheel, and it's less complicated. It's easier to use. It's easier to process. But there's a big problem with a color camera. First, the resolution is not no bueno. It's not good. It's lower resolution than the monochrome. Another problem with the color camera is when you image the planet, if it's see Los Planetas bajas, they're low in the sky, about 70 gradas bajas, below 70 degrees. The three colors will not focus on the same plane. So you will have a problem called atmospheric dispersion. So you will need a atmospheric dispersion corrector to basically correct the problem if you use a color camera. And it's not very easy to use, although it's possible to compensate, but it's not easy. The advantage of the monochrome camera is it's very sensitive, and since you're imaging through filters, using the atmospheric dispersion is not a problem. You don't need that anymore. And the best cameras, the most sensitive cameras available are all monochrome. But there's a caveat, of course. The only problem with monochrome is mas caro. You have to buy filters. You need a filter wheel. So it's the filters are not cheap. They're very expensive.
We have
So
one question, two questions here. So
Yeah.
they ask if you have you seen any difference between SCT normals, SCT or H for planetary images?
Actually, I don't think there's any difference. The only thing about the edge is that you have those lens, corrector lens, and the problem with the corrector lens, it gives you a flat image, but it's not necessary for planetary imaging. But you lose light. When light goes through any type of medium, you lose some of it. So the final image is not as bright as if you have the ordinary SCT. But some of the best images I know, like Damian Peach, even Andy Casey, they all use edge. But I use the normal Schmidt-Cassegrain, not the edge.
Okay, thank you.
But no, it's not necessary.
And the second one, I think you already talked a little about it, but is how you adjust the atmospheric dispersion corrector, or the corrector
First of all,
on a mono.
yo no sé. I don't know, because I haven't used. I don't have any experience of using atmospheric dispersion. Why? Because of our advantage. Vivamos cerca de la Ecuador, so Los Planetas is muy altas. Compared to our friend who lives in Canada, where Los Planetas son muy bajas. Aquí in Filipinas, in Colombia, Los Planetas muy altas compared to those in Canada. So for us, it's not necessary. But even at this time when the planets are in the south, it's still a bit high for us. But again, I don't have any experience with the dispersion, and for the best image, you really need the monochrome. But it's not that it's not possible, because this is the problem of when you use a color cam. You can see bare lines. You can see this image on the moon. Those defects there, those are because of the camera. When you have a color camera, this is with a filter. 1 pixel has 4 sensors. usually Sony camera, it's RGGB, so it has two verdes, one rojo, and one azul. So it's more on the green when you have a color camera, and it's because for nuestros ojos, the middle of the sensitivity of our eyes is in verde. So, but you can see the defect when you have a filter. You can see these dotted lines, the bare lines. You don't have that problem with a monochrome camera. But even then, this is an image of Jupiter with a color camera. So you can still do a very good, planetary image with color camera. And this image, Jupiter was, I think, around 60 degrees. I did not use any atmospheric dispersion. I just adjusted the blue and the red. But I think it's not a problem for us, especially those in Bogota. You're closer to the equator. I think, what's your latitude? About 4 degrees, right?
4 degrees north, yeah.
Yeah, 4 degrees north. Then yeah, it's not bad for us. We're actually muy suerte compared to Manuel. In Canada, the Los Paneras, right now it's maximum is about 40 degrees, right? Yeah, 40 degrees, the best. So I would still recommend using the monochrome, but I really have no experience of using. I don't think it's necessary for us who live close to the equator to use a atmospheric dispersion. But I have seen images from Pic du Midi where they used atmospheric dispersion with the planets at about 15 to 20 degrees, but with excellent seeing. You were able to get very good images.
Okay, we have another questions about this image you have of Jupiter right now. We see a double edge on the right side. What is the cause of that?
This is a defect when you use too much power. When you this is already optical diffraction. This is the equivalent of when you look at a star, you have that airy disk. So this is the equivalent when you're imaging at very, very high resolution. You get that problem.
Okay. And what filter do you use to focus, RGB or IR?
Actually, no, you cannot use IR. Normally, when I focus with a monochrome camera, I focus on the green. Anyway, we'll get to that. We will discuss that a little later.
Okay, thank you.
So, so this is the color cam. Right now, this is the best camera for monochrome. This is the 290. For now, a little later, I'm going to talk about a newer camera which is not yet available. This is a BSI, a back illuminated chip, very sensitive. And this is what I use right now for monochrome imaging. But it's also important because when imaging, we don't just image visible light. We also use IR, deep. We call it basically IR, near IR. And for this, you need this camera. The thing is, the 462 is a color cam. Right now, there's no monochrome cam equivalent for this camera yet. I'm waiting for the monochrome. I'm working with QHY. We're trying to convince Sony. But if they ever release a monochrome camera for the 462, this will be the camera to have. But as of now, it's not yet available. You can see that the transmission rate, especially in methane, is incredibly high. It's about three times brighter So this is an example of a methane band with a 462. It's far more high resolution than I could ever get with a 290, and it's with the same telescope just because of its very, very high sensitivity. So one thing nice about this color cam is that once it reaches 800 nanometers, it acts like a monochrome. So this is what I use now for capturing methane band. And lately, I have discovered and basically it's a strange. Wait a sec. Let me do this. Okay. Um, I w- I was able to discover a strange feature in Jupiter. So this is the example of what you get with a 290, and this is the example of what you get with a 462. The resolution is really uh, light years away. But this is what I discovered last month in Jupiter. Now this feature here is very weird because it's only visible in methane band. It's not visible in IR. It's not visible in the color, or even it's slightly visible in UV. And one thing weird about this feature, because we're actually using NASA's IRTF to study this right now, is that it does not go with the jet stream. You know, in Jupiter, there's a powerful jet stream on the planet, but this thing moves at the same rate as the magnetic field of Jupiter. So this is a very weird feature, which we're trying to understand right now, and I'm working with other amateur and professional astronomers, just trying to understand what's going on. So it's important that we try to image methane band, and currently this is the camera to use when you're imaging methane band, the 462, which I actually use. So and at any whenever I image, I actually use two camera and switch between cameras to take an image of Jupiter. So these are the accessories you need to increase the image size. What you use is a Barlow. For monochrome camera, you need a filter wheel and of course the filters. RGB. I use chroma because although they're very expensive, but they have the highest transmission rate and they get the best color rendition. Of course, you have a UV, IR, methane band. It's also good if you have a flip mirror because los planetas muy pequeños. Uh, when you're imaging at 3 o'clock in the morning, your brain is not 100%. You need a way to try to image the planet as fast as possible. So having a filter wheel will help a lot. Of course, if you're using a Schmidt-Cassegrain, it's good to have a motorized Crayford motorized filter wheel because when you're focusing, it's easier to control using a Crayford focuser because it doesn't, you don't have an image shift, and it's also vibration free, so you can actually get focusing easier. And one accessory, especially when you're imaging not on a cement or any solid ground, is to have a vibration suppression pods. I think Celestron sells these. Other companies I think also sell these. These are small accessories you place under your tripod to reduce vibration, and this really helps a lot. So when you're preparing, I always have this saying, necesitan cuidar las cosas pequeñas. You have to take care of little things because little things will affect your final image. You forget a little thing, and your images will come out bad. Well, this is the first thing that you have to take care. There's a website over here which gives you the live jet stream. For us in the equator, for me, it's not a big problem for me. I'll show you the current. Wait a sec.
Before that, we have what kind of flip mirror do you recommend?
Uh, Actually, right now, I really don't know what flip mirror is available. I'm using a Homeyer flip mirror, and unfortunately, it's not available anymore. So I really don't know what is available now. I think Vixen has a flip mirror available. So this is the current. So you can see that those of us in the equator. Sorry, Manuel. This is the live jet stream view right now, and you can see that. But I also noticed that sometimes the jet stream can go up to Colombia. Sometimes, especially during I think around winter, the southern winter. There are times that the jet stream would go up to Colombia, but no, you can use this. Check out your current jet stream status right now. The jet stream is very bad in Ontario. How's the seeing, Manuel? Anyway, so it's good to go through this website to check if there's any jet stream, and if you're under the jet stream, then it's there's really no point in imaging. It's it's not worth it. You're gonna get bad seeing. You're not gonna get any good image if you're going to image during when you're under a jet stream. So you just go to this website over here. This website over here.
Could you paste it on the chat?
Okay, wait a sec. Let me do this.
We have another question, and we have about a speed Cassegrain telescope 8-inch. Which is the maximum Barlow do you recommend for astrophotography for planetary?
I think 2 to 3 inch is good enough. 2 to 3 times.
2 a 3 veces. Yeah.
If you want, there's a Barlow from Astrophysics. It's called Barcon. It is a variable Barlow. So you have one Barlow, and you have you can, depending on how far the Barlow is, you can use extension tube. It can go as high as 4 times. So I would recommend that Barlow Astrophysics Barcon convertible Barlow as a if you want flexibility, because sometimes you need it all depends on the pixel size of your camera. Most camera right now have a small pixel size, about 2.9 microns or 3.2 microns. If you have that, you can use about 2.5 times. But if you have a camera with 5 microns, you have to go high about 4 or 5 times to compensate. And also, the Barlow you use would depend on the seeing. I don't know the seeing of other parts of Colombia, but I know that in Cartagena, seeing can be very good. And well, this is the location is very muy importante. Si tienes cerca agua, you have to be close to water, oceano, mare, lago, to have good seeing. Water seems to stabilize the atmosphere. So what's important for planetary imaging is really seeing. One advantage that we have is we're cerca del Ecuador. So los planetas muy altas aquí, or in our nuestro lugar. When you have that situation, then normally when the planets are very high, seeing is a lot better. Especially, I think this year, next year, it's still going to be higher, and the year after next, Saturn and Jupiter will be much higher than they are now. So it'll be much better to image. The second is, of course, I don't know what the seeing condition is in Bogota, because from what I know, if you're close to the mountains, you can also get very bad seeing. But it also depends, because I also know that if you're high enough, you can also get good seeing, because they also get very good seeing in peak humidity. So for those of you who are imaging in, I know that because of the Andes, uh, you know, a lot of cities in Colombia are very, very high altitude. I'm not sure. I don't know your seeing condition in your location, but just check your seeing condition. Uh, Also, stay away from heat sources. If you have air conditioning or heater or hot cement, when I'm imaging, I image with a cement floor. So what I do is in the afternoon, before I image, I actually spray water into it, so to cool down my floor. So I would recommend that in your location. And another important thing is you have to make sure that la temperatura of your telescopio is la mismo with the ambiente, with ambient temperature. Uh, I leave my telescope outside. I just cover it, so I have to cool my telescope. So this is what you have to bear in mind, that you have to make sure that the temperature inside your telescope is not warm, because if you have a hot telescope, there's really no point in imaging. The image will be very bad. It's also a problem if your telescope inside is too cold, because you're going to have dew. So for those of you who live in close to the sea, dew can be a problem. So I would recommend if you can get either a dew heater or uh, a dew shield to counter dew. In this case, for big telescopes, if you need to cool the telescope, you need a blower. You need to get air inside the telescope just to cool down the telescope. And the next important thing is collimation. You need to collimate your telescope. And it's not just visual collimation. You have to collimate con camera, through the camera, for la camera. Because once you have the filter wheel, the Barlow, and everything, the collimation will be different from, let's say, your visual setup. So you have to collimate your camera using your telescope using the camera. It can take some time. That's why if you have a Schmidt Cassegrain, I would recommend that you get Bob's knobs, the manual, so you can collimate with your hands. Because I remember when we were collimating using a screwdriver, it was rather difficult to do. You could actually collimate using a star. If the seeing is not very good, I would recommend that you use an IR filter. And what you have to do is just before the star focuses, you make sure that this ring, the color of the ring is, the brightness of the ring is even. This takes some time to do. Collimating a telescope can be time consuming, but once you have your telescope collimated, that's one of the ways you can get very good image. This is a very important step. If you do not collimate your telescope, no matter how good the seeing is, you will not get a good image. That's what I mean that earlier when I said that you have to take care of the little things. Tenemos que cuidar las cosas pequeñas. All these little things will create a good image. And this is not even the start of imaging yet. This is before imaging. You have to prepare your telescope. You have to collimate, make it cool. You have to make sure that your location is perfect. Then you can start imaging and get good images. Of course, this is my setup right now. It's a C14. Hopefully, I'm planning to get a new telescope probably middle this year. It's still a C14, but a much newer one, because right now I use an old, this is about a 20-year-old Schmidt-Cassegrain, and the optics is not very good. I mean, it's not clean anymore. Also, for those of you who are using a big telescope, especially a Schmidt-Cassegrain, you have to lock the mirror, because I do notice that when you're imaging, especially for us here in the close to the equator, when the planets are very high, the mirror tends to drop down. So you have to lock the mirror. This is the mirror lock. So you have to do this step to make sure that you maintain focus throughout your imaging. And of course, this is an important software, WinJupos. I would recommend that you download this software. It will help you prepare to see, if there's anything interesting going on Jupiter. You want to see the great red spot, what time to see the great red spot. This is an important software. Later on, I'll talk to you about WinJupos because it's also used for derotation. So we actually use this software to basically get better images. So yeah, we now proceed to image capture. So it would have been nice to do a live imaging, but right now it's raining hard right now. The weather here hasn't been very good. But these are my two children right now. They're over 20 years old now, so they've grown a lot since I started imaging planets. So the software that's basically the best control software is really fire capture. I've tried a lot other softwares like ShotCap. Nothing beats fire capture because of the controls. Although I have to say that the problem with fire capture is it's a Java software, so at times it can be very buggy, it can be unstable, but the controls are fantastic. I like the controls of fire capture more than I like the controls of SharpCap, especially because this software is actually built for planetary imaging. So when you're imaging using fire capture, you have to go to settings first and make sure that you choose this option, the WinJupos file naming convention, because later on, when we start processing the image, it's going to help a lot to make things fast. Now I have to explain one thing. When I image, I try to keep things simple as possible because no soy de jubilado. I know a lot of imagers who that's what they do. They just do planetary imaging. They don't have work. Tengo trabajo y familia. Tengo 4 hijos. So I have a family. I have 4 hijos. My wife, and I work for my wife. So I only have a limited time to do imaging, processing, and everything. So I'm not like other imagers who use Nina or a lot of complicated processing. I try to keep things simple as possible so I can do things as fast as possible, so that mi esposa, my wife will not complain. So I try to keep things simple. That's my philosophy. So from the capture, every night I only allocate about 30 to 45 minutes for capture, especially right now since you have to wake up at alas 4, alas 3 la mañana. It's not easy to wake up early in the morning, and after that you have to go to work. You have to take care of the children. So with a busy schedule, I have to keep things as simple as possible. So that's why I have a workflow So all I have to do is to basically do my entire workflow so that I can do everything very fast. So when doing the capture, I set these things up ahead of time. And the reason why I use this WinJupyter's file naming convention, because later on you'll say it'll save a lot of time. And of course, for those of you who are just starting to image, there are two types of controls, the gain and the exposure time. The exposure time will control your frame rate. So the faster your exposure time, the more frames you will be able to capture. And of course, the gain, you have the gain. I would say do not be afraid to use the gain, to push the gain, because you have to make sure that your image is bright. Later on, I will discuss to you the properties of each planet on what to do. Now, here are some capture secrets. Remember always that planetary imaging is like driving. There's no such thing as fixed settings. Many people ask me, what settings do you use? If I'm going to give you my settings, it's not going to help you in any way, because even me, whenever I have a new telescope, I have totally new settings. When I use an 8-inch, my setting for the 8-inch is different from my setting with the 11-inch and the 14-inch. Totally different, even with the same camera. And if I have a new camera, the setting is also different. Before I use an ASI 120, my maximum frame rate was about 60, 70. Right now, I'm using the 290. I'm using about 100 to 120 frames per second. So it all depends, but you have to find the sweet spot. But I will give you guidelines a little after this. If possible, use the fastest frame rate possible without going over the gain. For the 290, I would recommend that you do not go over 48 dB. It's also important that you spend time to focus the telescope. You have to be very patient when you're focusing, because it'll take, especially when seeing is good, it's very easy to focus. But when the seeing is not good, it may take some time. Now, a lot of people ask me, do you use, what was that Basinov that we were using, Manuel? A lot of these, focusing aids. First of all, you cannot do autofocus with planetary imaging. Those Basinov filters, they're not going to work. But the easiest way to focus, especially when you're using Jupiter or Saturn, try to find the moon. In the case of Jupiter, Io, Europa, or in the case of Saturn, it's easier. You don't need a moon. You just look for the rings. So you just use that, and basically, if you're using a motorized focuser, just run through. I call it jogging. So you go in and out of focus and try to find the center point. When the seeing is good, it's very easy. It's also easier when you're focusing with the moon. And the other secret is that before, it was difficult, especially because there's a limited time on your capture. Planets rotate, and some planets rotate very fast. So you only have a limited time of capturing. But with derotation, right now, I can capture up to 1 hour of data to improve. The image of Saturn that I showed you earlier, this image of Saturn, this is a 1 hour capture, just for one image, 1 hour. And what does it give you? These spots cannot be seen if you were just capturing for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You will not be able to see. And the only other thing that telescope that can see is Hubble and Cassini. So it was I was just so surprised. This was an image that I took last year, and I've been capturing these spots. And in August, last year, where was that? HST. Let me check what planet is this. By the way, I also process Hubble images. Oh, this is Jupiter. To give you an idea, this is an image of Hubble image of Jupiter, which I processed for the professionals. Saturn. What's that? HST U2. Oh, okay, this is the one. So you can see that you know the spots that I was imaging. This one, you can actually see it here. This is the spot. So all you need is time. Just capture a lot of data, and you can get incredible images. Now here are some of the secrets. When you're imaging Jupiter, what I use is you know a lot of people ask me what gain, what exposure time. I would rather say you have to check on the histogram. Make sure that the histogram is about 90 to 95%. Just make sure it doesn't go over 100%. So this is how you would gauge how bright your image will be. So for all the channel, rojo, verde, azul, you have to make sure that the histogram is about 89 to 95%. Be mindful of the integration time, depending on your telescope, because the Jupiter rotates muy rápido, rotates very fast, muy rápido. So for C8, the maximum exposure time is 1 minuto. For C11, probably about 45 segundos, and the C14 about 30 segundos. So these are the limits per channel that you can, before you can see rotation. Again, focus with EO or Europa. If it, just move your telescope and just focus on those two moons, so you can get very good focus on the planet. For Saturn, this is methane band. In methane band, because methane band are very narrow band filters. Sometimes you use about 1/10 of a second to half a second. But the methane band is important because it shows the high altitude clouds of Jupiter. Because of the methane band is smaller, you can actually capture longer. But because you're using long exposure times, you need to capture dark frames. I know a lot of you are doing deep sky imaging. You capture flat and dark frames. You'll notice that when you're capturing in methane band, you can see a lot of noise, hot pixels. So you really need to capture dark frames. And in the case, I would recommend you just capture a video of 5 frames and stack it and use it to dark subtract when you're processing the image. For Saturn, the problem with Saturn, it's further away from Jupiter, so it's very low surface brightness. You really need the rotation for this one. You need a lot of time to capture it. You also need to use high gain. In fact, I said earlier that the maximum I would use is 48, but for Saturn, I go as high as even 500 dB for the 290. Also, the histogram should be around 80 to 90%. Because don't I don't know understand why some people when they capture very dim. You should remember that when you think about the pixel, it's like having a glass of water. Un vaso. You have to fill it lena con agua, fill it with water. So it's the same with each pixel of the camera. It's like un vaso, and the la luz is like the agua. So you have to fill the pixel until it's almost full. So that's why you have to bear in mind you have to use very high histogram to fill up that, or else number one, the contrast will not be very good, and also you'll get a lot of artifacts if you're using. One of the artifacts is the onion skin effect that you will see if you're using you don't fill up those pixels. So for Mars, again, you have to use these histogram levels, or rojo verde, about 80 to 90%. Now, one thing nice about Mars is the rotation of Mars is mas lento compared to other planets. So you can go as high as 4 minutos even with the C14 without any problems. And make sure that, especially when you're using a monochrome camera, that you use a UV IR block, and make sure that your blue has no IR leakage. You will notice when you're using the blue filter, you should not see anything except clouds and the ice caps, the polar caps, and the clouds. That is the only thing you can see in blue. If you see details, then your blue has a IR leak or something, because I've known some filters that have IR leaks. For lunar and solar imaging, I would recommend a monochrome, bigger chip. And by the way, I know that right now there's the popular drive right now is a solid state drive. Now, for planetary imaging, I would not recommend using the solid state drive because, first of all, one problem with solid state drive is that it has a limited write capability. And also the problem with planetary imaging, or even solar or lunar imaging, unless you're imaging a total solar eclipse where you have a limited time, you're going to use a lot of data, and you're going to destroy the SSD very fast. So just use traditional hard drive to store your data for planetary imaging. Although SSD is fun, SSD is nice, but it's not going to last a long time if you're using SSD. The only time I would use an SSD is during eclipse, when I have like last 2017 there was a total solar eclipse, and during that time I don't know why I used a a planetary cam instead of a DSLR, and I was happy with the results, but I had to use the SSD because the total solar eclipse only was, I think, 2.5 minutes. So you need to save for that short. But normally when I'm doing H alpha or other types of imaging, just use the hard drive, and make sure that when you're using fire capture, you have to basically turn on the memory cache. Just also make sure that your computer has a lot of RAM, so you can fire capture can store the data into the RAM. For fire capture, I would really recommend if you can get a laptop with more than 16 gigabytes of RAM. 8 gig is not enough. 16 to 32 gig would be perfect. So so far, do you have any questions for so far before we go to image processing? Do I focus between RGB and IR capture? No, I don't. I don't have time. actually, I have to set up, everything is automated. When you have a motorized filter wheel, you can actually use fire capture to control the filter wheel. So all you have to do is to capture red. It will just go to red, green, and blue automatically. You don't have time to focus. And most of the time, the blue will be out of focus. Unless, of course, the planet is very high, then the focus of the blue will be, more or less the same. That is why I would recommend, when you focus, do not focus on red. Focus on green. Focus using the green filter. And once the green is focused, more or less the red will be focused, and the blue will sometimes be focused. You don't really have time to, focus on each filter, because you want to capture as fast as possible. Because especially when you're capturing with Jupiter, which rotates very fast, you really don't have time. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, we have a question here. How frequently do you focus?
I actually focus every time. Normally, if I do this is my normal routine. First, I capture RGB. If the seeing is good, I capture 3 or 4 sets. If the seeing is not good, up to 10. So for every 5 captures, I would go back to green and try to refocus. For after that, I normally for IR, I don't change focus anymore. But what I normally do is, after IR, I have to switch cameras to capture methane band. So I have to refocus again. But I would recommend probably every about 5 to 10 minutes, every 10 minutes probably, to check your focus again. Schmidt-Cassegrain isn't really the best. It's not a high-end telescope, so you can see some focus creeps.
And about between RGB and IR capture, do you focus?
No, I don't. Well, first of all, I have to tell you that my filters are all from the same manufacturer, and they're all parfocal. So I don't need to refocus. I don't know about you, because if you're using, let's say, an IR filter which is of different brand from your RGB, then the focus might be different. But what I know is, if you're imaging in UV, you have to change your focus. So it depends on what type of filter you use. If you have, I think different brands of filters have different focus. So if it's the same brand, and it's all an experience. If you feel that you take the first set and the focus is okay, then you don't need. It's basically, you have to figure it out yourself by testing it out. Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think so. Well, thank you. So far, we don't have any more questions, but let me ask in Spanish. Si tienen alguna pregunta, pues se la pueden hacer directamente a Christopher, o me la pueden escribir en el chat y yo se las leo. Looks like nothing right now, so well.
Okay, we'll go to the fun part.
You ask again. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to processing. So for processing, this is my basically my workflow. First, we stack. So what I normally use is Auto Stacker. Why? Because it's one of the easiest. It's the best software right now, and it gives a very good quality image. The results are actually pretty good. Here's a sample of my data. So so what you normally do is, in my case, the seeing, I think, of this was about 8 to 9 over 10. So I would basically stack about 70%. I just press this one, press AP on grid. Wait a sec, I have to do this. So what's wrong with this? Okay. Make sure you have all these settings. This is the latest version of AutoStacker. You use planets, dynamic background, Laplace. You just have to set this once and forget about it. And basically, yeah. What I love to do is I drizzle it by 1.5 times. And that's it, just stack. So this is going to go and stack this image. So this is going to take some time. This is about 1 minute. So one advantage of the AutoStacker is it's fairly, it's not very complicated to use, but it's really a very, very powerful software. It's okay. It's stacking right now. So we'll let it stack. So basically, it's quite simple to use AutoStacker. It's the results is really much better than Registax because of the multi-point alignment. So the next step that I do is well, yeah, this is basically the settings that I use. But I think yeah, I use drizzle 1.5 times. Now, the next software that I use, my next step is to use the initial sharpening, the wavelets. So, okay, it's done. So I go to Registax. You're asking me, why am I using Registax 5? Why not use Registax 6? Let's just say I'm used to Registax 5 and I have a lot of presets. And basically with wavelets, it's all the same. So this is the stock image. You can see that it's blurry. Next is I apply my wavelet settings. And this is the setting that I'm using now. And voila. So you can see the difference between, the initial image without the wavelets. And this is the wavelets. Now, although, you can see my settings here, this might not apply to you. This setting works for my telescope, my image scale. If you have a smaller or bigger image, you have to do trial and error. Try to play with initial layer, step increment. You can go up 1, 0, 2. In my case, I only use the first 1, 2, 3. I don't use the other below. I know Anthony uses other settings. Damien Peach uses their own settings. Everybody has their own settings. You have to make your own. If you find a setting that's good for you, you would save it. And that's why I have all the schemes here to use. I have one for, different cameras. This is the 236 camera that I use. And there was I have different for good seeing, bad seeing. I have different settings for methane band, for even Hubble. Oh no, I don't use this for Hubble anymore. But for Mars, I have a different setting. For the Moon, I have a different setting. So you have to. This is a setting that I used before, but right now it's too grainy. I don't use it anymore. And basically, this is the setting that I use now. So you have to play around with a setting that you're comfortable with. There's no fixed rule about this. You have to discover it yourself. You can make my setting as a guide, but I don't think it's going to help. You can see it here that you need to have the correct wavelet setting. It's very important to have, if you want to have a good image, to have the correct wavelet settings.
We have a few questions here.
Yeah.
How do you select the AP size?
The AP size now, basically, I use the largest AP size for my planet. 200 is too much. 104 is the largest, which is comfortable. There's, using a small AP size is not going to make your image better. In fact, one problem is that if you're using a very small AP size, you'll get a lot of artifacts. Like some portions of Jupiter will not align very well, and it's going to take a long time to process. So you just use the AP size, the largest that you can, in my case, it's 104, because if it's 200, it's not that a lot. I just use 104. For Mars, I use 48 because it's smaller. It depends on the planet, on the object you're doing. Just don't use the AP size that's too small. I would say it's not really the largest, but the medium size.
Okay. Do you adjust the quality estimator if you have a bad scene or high clouds?
Yeah. Here in Cebu, or the same, I think, also in Colombia, seeing doesn't really change much in a night. Well, if there's clouds, of course, the problem is not seeing, but transparency will go down. And one thing you would do is, it's not on processing, but you have to go to your camera and make sure that the histogram is automatic. So what the camera will do, the software will do, it will adjust the gain automatically to compensate, to keep the histogram at 90%. But if transparency is really very bad and you have variable transparency, you have to check this one, variable transparency recovery.
Do you apply wavelets and then rotate each channel separately?
No, we'll go to that. So my next step is okay. So this is my next step. The next step is to put things together. You stack everything. You as I said, I want to do things as fast as possible. If you're going to do you rotate each of those, it's going to take a lot of time. So what I do is I merge the RGB, and this is basically what you would do. All right, let's choose this one. Okay, this is a sample image. Now, you should remember, first of all, that when you're using Registax, this will be, right now it's gray because this is an old image. This will be RGB. So the first thing you have to do is to go to image mode and make sure everything is on grayscale, because you cannot merge this if it's in RGB. So you convert all the files to grayscale. So this one to grayscale. Now that everything is in grayscale, oops. Oh shoot, what did I do? Sorry about that. Okay. I have to do this because this one is covering. So what you do is you have this one, layers. You go to channels, and from channels you go to merge channels. Then you go to RGB. Then make sure that the red is the red, green, and blue. By the way, I use W to indicate that wavelet has been applied to that file, and voila. You have almost a color image, but it's not yet aligned. So to align it, you have to press this button over here and do this manually. You can check that, oh, it's not aligned. So this is very important. when you align the red and the blue to the green. Don't touch the green, just the red and the blue. So the red, I do this manually, and the blue. Okay, so there you have it, a perfectly aligned image of Jupiter. This is just a single RGB. So what I normally do is I save this, and this is very important. Once you save, you have to use the file name of the green, because here you have the time of the green. That is, if you use the WinJupos naming convention, and instead of the G, you just change it to C, color, which means it's color. So save. Okay, that's it. So that's what you do to make the three RGB to a color image. Again, you align to the green and save to the green. Why green? Because the green has the middle time. And of course, the next step is WinJupos derotation. So what is derotation? Derotation is just stacking more. Now we have auto stacker where we stack one file, but the problem is that the planets rotate. So you need a way to stack it beyond the rotation. Before, when we did not use without the rotation, we used to, I think before we used to do it LRGB, but now nobody does LRGB anymore. Many people ask me, why don't you do LRGB? No, it's not necessary. We derotate. So instead of going here, I'm just going to demo you how to do the derotation. So okay, we can close this. We can close this. No. So so what do you do? First, you have to go to recording and image measurements. And well, basically, we're only going to deal the color image. So we go to C. So this is the, what you need to do is you make sure that this would go around the planet. Now, for Jupiter, it's very easy. You have to press the F11 key. So, you know, F11. Wait, here. This is what happens when you press the F11. Okay, voila. It basically more or less that's the basically the position. You can check a little bit if it's I would normally look at this equatorial line if it's good and aligned. If it's not, what are the well, basically the controls that you have? You can use the up and down key to move this up and down, left and right. To rotate this one, you press letter N and letter P. So this is what happens when you press letter N, and this is what happens when you press letter P. If you want this to become big and small, you press page up and page down, and page down. Okay. For Jupiter, just press F11, and more or less, normally usually, you get more or less the correct basically configuration. Now, one thing interesting is if you had followed the instruction earlier, first of all, to save the date and the time using WinJupos, then you don't have to change this anymore. You don't have to key in this manually, the date and the time. And if you align the RGB to the green, you'll notice that, you know, you go to the second file, it's more or less the same orientations. You don't need to adjust the frame anymore. All you have to do is to open the file and save, open the file and save, and you get everything. And after that, once you get everything there, you do the derotation. In this case, I have 3 images here. Okay, So what I normally do, to avoid confusion, I add F here. This is the final image. You can use whatever. Oh, by the way, there's something I forgot. Before anything else, you have to set this at 0.990. This is the limb darkening. Why? Because if you do not use this one, you're going to have a very bright artifact on the edge of the planet. So make sure that this one is 0.90. Okay, I would recommend that you this one 0.90. And of course, you can see it here, LD value 0.90. And when you derotate it, this is what happens. There you have it. So this is the derotated image. This is just like stacking 3 images. You'll notice that compared to the original image, this is smoother. So we can do more magic with this one. Okay, you guys have any questions? So derotation is very easy. It's not that difficult.
About the rotation, not so far. We have a question. We have a question, but it's about the red dust on planetary imaging. They ask if you prefer that the software do it manually, like that you do it manually, or you do it automatically.
I prefer it manually because even with software, I don't know if there's a way to do it automatically with software, because I think I've tried doing that and it didn't work very well. It was just faster to do it manually.
Thank you. That's all the questions we have so far. Let me ask in Spanish again. ¿Tienen alguna otra pregunta para Christopher de lo que llevamos hasta el momento?
Yeah, there's a question here. Do I apply wavelets and then derotate on each channel? No, yes. Each channel I apply wavelets. This basically what I showed you was basically my procedure. First, I stack. After stacking, I apply wavelets, then convert it to color, then derotate. Now you will notice this one. So you'll notice the difference between this one is the original, the single one, and this is the derotated one. You'll notice it's a lot smoother now, a lot cleaner. So what I normally do, this is the post-processing. I basically adjust the histogram to make it brighter. There you go. And you'll notice that this thing looks a little blue. So I'll add a little blue here. Okay. Now, this is the magic. So the first is when you do sharpening, the first thing you do is use the speckle. So what is the speckle? It's like when you use a hammer, un martillo, what you do is, when you hit something with a hammer, you break it, right? But in some cases, when you hit something, what you do is you place a piece of cloth so that when you hit it with a hammer, you don't break it, you just move it. And this is the case. So I would apply the speckle, but I will show you the difference. So first of all, we're just going to use a sharpening. I use a Nick collection. It's an outer output sharpener. I already have my own settings for this one. So this is what you get when you're using without the speckle. You can see a lot of artifacts. See? Now, let's go back here. Now, instead of just applying that, we use the speckle. Then we apply this one. Wait, so you'll notice less artifacts. Okay? You can see the difference between what we did earlier without using the speckle. So whenever you do sharpening, you add a little the speckle first before you hit it. Now, there's a software called, this is not free software, this you have to buy this one. Topaz Labs. I would apply this one, denoise, to just to clean it up, no noise. You'll see this in the blue. Look at this one. This is how the blue is before, and this is after you add sharpening. And when you add the noise, wow. Then my final, I just do a little contrast retouch. I use Topaz Labs Adjust. This is a bit too much, but there you go. You can see the difference. So that's my secret. So that's the final image. So that's what I do when I do my processing. If you notice, when I took this image, the seeing was, I think, about 7 to 8. But the final image is like 10/10.
Great. I have a couple questions here. Do you derotate the methane channel?
Yes, I do. You have to derotate the methane channel.
And the second question is, do you use like as an L for the final images?
I beg your pardon. I use what?
I really don't understand the question. It says literally, do you use it as an L for the final image?
LL luminance. Luminance.
Yes.
Yo
Do
no
you use
uso
the
luminance.
methane? Do you use the methane channel as a luminance?
No,
Or what
no,
is
no,
the
no.
purpose of using taking the methane band?
Methane ban
What
is
is
for
the purpose of-
research.
Okay.
We will. I will show you. We will process a methane ban. Wait a sec. The methane ban is totally different. Let's see. No, as I said earlier, we don't use luminance anymore. The methane band is totally separate. We do methane band just to get methane band image. That's it. That's all. Okay, here we go. Okay. Can I play methane here? No. No, sorry. I don't have a SIR player. I'll show you the methane band. When capturing using the methane band, this is dark. Oh, I didn't have the dark here. Wait a sec. Where's the dark? What did I? 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And okay. So this is the dark frame for the methane band. So what you first do is go to image calibration, create master frame. So just place dark there. So this is the dark frame for the methane band. So what I would do is, let's say, open this one. I normally don't use drizzle with methane band, and because methane band, the seeing is good, I place 90% calibration. So I have the dark. Okay, the hot pixels are gone now. Now, because the size of the Jupiter is smaller here, I use 48. Oh, wait, it's too small. Okay, this is good enough. And basically, I stack. When you look at the methane band, it doesn't really show you a lot here. But when you apply here, yeah, you see a lot of details now. But you'll notice about the methane band, it's very noisy. It's very noisy. So that's why you need to derotate this methane band image. So when you do the derotation for methane band, you just derotate the methane band image, like this one. In this case, I already had a measurement here. So basically, this is the measurement of the methane band. So what you do is you open this. Actually have a calibration. I have an RGB because if you use an F11 with the methane band, it's not going to align well. So I actually captured an RGB, or luminance on the color camera. So after you do these image measurements, you derotate. Because of the long exposure and the graininess, I normally spend 12 minutes. It's basically 2 minutes capture for methane band. And basically, you can see how grainy it is here. And you compare here, you have a very smooth image, very much clearer than what you have here. And when you do your final processing, so it's a lot easier than the color image. Again, you do the levels, so you brighten things up, clip it a little bit. In this case, I don't really do a lot of sharpening this speckle. I would apply this one, adjust. And a little denoise. Denoise is just to remove the grain, make it smooth. There you have it. If you compare with a single capture, this is a single capture, this is a derotated. So you can see the difference.
Yes.
So it's smoother. You can see a lot of small details that you cannot see. Low contrast features on Jupiter. Now, why is this important? Because there are some features in Jupiter that can only be seen in methane band, like this one over here. You cannot see with a color image. And usually, when you have methane band, you have very high altitude clouds. So the brighter it is, the higher the altitude it is, más alta en la planeta. Okay, so you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Christopher.
Okay, go ahead.
When you have several RGB images, do you stack each RGB, and then um, let's say you have three red images, three green and three red. How do you get one image from that?
Oh,
I
I
mean,
think I explained earlier. First, I stack each of the frame, then apply wavelets. Then I basically make color.
yeah, but if you have three videos from reds, you use
You have to do it
auto
one at a
stacker.
time.
Yes,
You have to do
and
it. Yeah, you have to do it one at a time. So you stack all your images with auto stacker. Then you apply wavelets on all your images, and you convert RGB on all your images. Then you derotate.
but you will end up with three RGB color images.
Yeah, you have 3 RGB color images, which you derotate.
Oh, so you stack the three RGB images when you derotate in the final derotation.
No. So these are the 3 R. This is the 3 RGB image. I have one. So when you do your image measurements, you're going to save it. So once you save it, you're going to have this one, an image measurement file. So in this case, I have 3. So 1, 2. Oh, wait a sec. 1, 2, then 3. So you have three color images. You have 3 measurements.
Yes.
So you derotate the 3 images. So you have 1, 2, and 3. So you have the 3 images that you just measured, that you captured, and it becomes, when you compile, so you have 1 image. So this is 3
Oh.
images into 1.
Okay, thank you.
And the same is with the methane band. With the methane band, I had 6 images. So this is the total of 6 images, and this is just 1 image. Okay? I hope you understand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. So basically, so some people ask me, why don't you just derotate R, then G, B, 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 B? You're not going to get a perfect alignment if you do that. So that's why you have to do RGB, 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 RGB. Unlike when you're imaging deep sky, where you can, capture 100 red, 100 green, and 100 blue, then you can merge everything. The deep sky, no cambio, no cambiar. Deep sky doesn't change. In planets, the planets rotate, and they rotate very fast. So you cannot do, if you do R, G, B, 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 so you're going to have a misaligned planet. That's why you have to do RGB, 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 RGB. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, but it's the only way to get image. Do you have ¿Tienes preguntas? ¿Otras preguntas?
¿Alguien tiene más preguntas? I think it's just congratulations, excellent image, and the class that you're giving us. Thanks so much. That's
Okay.
so far all we have.
We'll go through this, and I think the sharpening tools that I talked about, the sharpening tools, you have the G-stack wavelets and the DxO NIX. The NIX right now is not, yeah, it's it used to be free, but now it's not free anymore. But I think there's still free versions out there. Again, noise reduction you can use in Photoshop. There's the speckle and dust and scratches, and of course the most powerful tool is Topaz Labs denoise. Processing is a work of art. Each person will have a look. I mean, in the end, no two images will be the same, even if it's captured at the same time with the same seeing. Each person has its own personality and characteristics and ways. You have to have your own way. In time, I've known Damien Peach and Anthony Wesley, and I've seen their process is so different from what I do, but they still get good images. So, I mean, as they say, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. So don't be too limited. And also, even me, I've been imaging since probably year 2000, and I'm still learning. Sometimes I get tips from people like you to improve my images, to use different software. The process that I use to process now, I've been using for the last I think 6-7 months. Before that, I had a totally different workflow. So we all learn. Although some of us know more than others, but in the end, we still learn. There's no such thing as, I have a perfect method and this is the only way to do it. There is a lot of ways to do it, and I learn from other people. So we cannot close ourselves into thinking that this is the only way. So what I'm showing you are suggestions. You may have other softwares, other methods of processing. There's no right or wrong, but all I can say is, first of all, please do not over process. Better less process than over processing it. Keep your process simple. And also, I like to do a warning. I know lately, this is one of the latest software. This is the latest Topaz Labs, but I don't use it because this is AI, artificial intelligence. The problem, el problema de este software is it creates imaginary things that do not exist. It's been known to, I think there was this guy, there's an astronomer, a friend of mine in New Jersey, who basically used the software, and it came out very nice, but it made false information when you're using the AI. So I would not recommend, do not use AI. No es bueno. It's muy mal. Do not use artificial intelligence. If you want to use Topaz Labs, use the old version, not the new version. So all these, actually, I only got this for the license, but I also want to test it out. But no, it's no good. I would not recommend that you use the the AI version of these softwares. Just avoid it. It's very nice for pictures, terrestrial pictures probably, but not good for astronomy. So please do not use AI for
Okay.
for your processing.
Okay.